Debbie with Kip's Corner. Welcome back. And if you're new, welcome. So today I'm going to finish up the cover, or at least as much as the cover as I'm going to do at this stage, for the first Woodland journal. When last we were together, I got this far. I gutted and then covered a Reader's Digest condensed book with this gorgeous, beautiful textured paper. And so now I'm going to add the owl. I think I mentioned that I was going to put an owl on the front of it, and the piece that I've got to cover the spine. So here's the owl. I had a couple different choices for the person. This is the journal that is the custom order, and I gave her a couple choices for owls. And this is the one she selected, which is going to be absolutely gorgeous. And what I've done, he was from a book that had a sheen or a shine to the paper. It was a slightly glossy paper. And I didn't want him to be shiny, but I also didn't want to, if you look at this paper, it has a fairly deep texture to it. And with the thin book page, I didn't want him, the owl, to end up seeing the same texture through. So what I did is I cut, first I fussy cut him out, and then I just added a piece of not even chipboard, cardstock, just some craft cardstock that I have. And I cut around just inside of him so that none of the craft paper was on the outside, and then glued those two pieces together. So what that'll do is that'll create a thick enough substrate here for him to where he'll sit on top of those crevices instead of seeping down into it and the texture coming through onto him. So I want him to be smooth with the texture in the background. I hope that makes sense. So anyway, I put them together using matte medium, and then I went ahead and put a coat of matte medium across the front of him to tone down that gloss. Then I inked the edges with Distress Oxide Walnut Stain. Distress Oxide reacts to water, and so in the instance that some moisture might at some point get on the cover of this, I didn't want that to come off. So I sealed the front of him with a matte acrylic spray sealer. And so now he has a matte sheen. He's got two layers of protection on top of him. He's got the matte medium layer, and then he's got the acrylic sealer layer. And so he should be well protected. And then he's got the cardstock on the back to prevent him from the paper from seeping in and picking up this texture. Okay, that's that. Then for the spine, what I did is this is a piece of canvas. It's not real thick, but it's pretty sturdy. And I painted it using Metalique, it's a moss green. And this is the same paint that I was going to use on this cover in the last video. And at the end of the day, after I had covered it, I didn't like how much gold was coming through with that moss green on top of the black. And so I repainted it with just a green of my own that was very close in color, but it's just a little bit more forestry. But on the canvas, it worked out really nicely. And then I just kind of grunged it up just a little bit with a little bit of ink on the edges and in just a couple places. So, and then I turned the edge and just ran a seam down both sides. That's where I am so far. So I've got the owl ready to go. I've got the spine ready to go. And then I found this trim in my stash that I'm absolutely in love with, that I think I'm going to slip under here. So there's just a little bit of that scallop edge coming through, and I think that'll just be really pretty as well. So that's where I am. And that's what I need to do, is put these pieces together and finish up this portion of the cover. So the first thing I need to do is get this guy on here. And he's obviously bigger than my space, but I'm going to come in as far as I can. I've made a little mark here about where center is, which is about where I'll put my hitch knob. And so I want the hitch knob, I don't want to put it through him. So I want to make sure he's high enough that I've got space for that hitch knob. So I'm going to do something like that. And then I'll turn this part over to the inside so you'll see his wing here still on the edge. So he won't be a straight cut there. And then this side will be covered by the spine piece. So let's get started. I think what I'm going to do is glue him on with, I'm going to glue him on with Fabri-Tac or gloss or 3-in-1. I'm not sure which one this is. And I'm going to get all the way to the edge, especially on these little fussy cut pieces here, and make sure that I get glue on those pieces because I don't want those to be vulnerable to ripping off. So what that means is when I roll this and push down on it, he's gonna squish out a little, and I'll just clean that glue up. So I'm just gonna go around. Let's do this. Okay, I've got my mark where my knob is. And I'm going to change his angle just a little bit. Here we go. Pull his head back just a tiny bit here. And I think that's good. Oh, I glued that whole side. Well, that was smart. Okay. Should have marked where I should have marked where he's not going to be. Well, he is going to be rolled over though, so. I'm just rolling him down, getting that glue, all the excess glue squished out, and then I'll go back over and clean him up. Make sure I've got him in a good place. I want to come over just as much as I can here. Okay, and now I'm going to roll him. I'm going to roll this in here. And I probably, well, not probably, I definitely don't need that much. So I'm going to just snip some of this off just so that it's not too thick in there. And then when I put down the inside, when I cover the inside, that'll be covered. That edge will be covered. So just want to make sure it's on here good. Push down nicely. Okay. Now I'm going to go back through here and just clean up anything that oozed out. And it's not gloss, but it has almost, kind of a satiny sort of sheen to it. And now he is just a matte color. And so I think the two will play well together. So I'm just going to make sure I've got all of his little pieces glued down here. And there he is. Let's see. Okay. Oh, I like it. I like it. Okay. Now on this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the trim to this piece before I put it on. So that way I can make sure that I get the edge nice and, wrong scissors. Let's try that again. Nice and even. Okay. So I just need to figure out what's the front, what's the back. That's the front. So I think I'm just going to run this glue down this edge. If I can and get my glue out, ready to go. And I'm running it between my seam line, my sewing line, and the very edge. Okay. And so that's the front. So I want the front to be facing front. I'm gonna lay this down. And now I'm just gonna go. I don't want the edge to show. So I want it to hit right on that edge. There we go. So you can just only see the scallops. Oh, guys, a little. Okay. And then I'll just trim this off. And there we go. That's pretty. I think I'll go ahead and put that on both the front and the back. So let's do the exact same thing. Oh, I like that. Just adds a little bit of extra. And the two pieces, color-wise, are absolutely perfect. I don't know that I could have done a better job of that if I had tried. I just got lucky. It was in my stash. I saw it. I laid it down and went, ooh, that's perfect. Okay. All right, let's get this out of the way. And there's more there I can use on something else just to tie the pieces in together. Okay. Now, if I went directly in the center here, I feel like I would cut too much of him off. So I'm going to shift this a little bit. So there'll be more of the green spine coming around the back than there is around the front. But I also need enough on the front to where it doesn't, you know, it doesn't easily really pop off on me. So I'm going to put it about there. And I'm going to use the Fabri-Tac again. I'm just going to really lather this up with lots of glue. If I can get it to cooperate here. It just doesn't want to come out. You got to be patient. Okay. And I know that I don't need to put glue, you know, from about, well, let's see. Yeah, about that third one, the third little hoop about here. And I'm coming right up to the edge. Again, if it oozes out, I will just clean it up. But I would rather that edge be nicely stuck. And there'd be plenty of glue there. I don't like skimping. I don't want to skimp with the glue. So I think I mentioned that in my last video. You know, a lot of times you get, you know, what's the best glue to use? Well, the answer to that is, depends on what you're doing. It depends on what you're gluing, what the pieces that you're gluing are made of, you know, paper, metal, etc., wood, chipboard. It's all a little different, and it all reacts a little differently to different kinds of glue. Okay, let's see if we got enough on here. Now, as we said, I'm going to start with this front piece. Again, I need to get it over far enough that I'll be able to get it in that groove without any trouble. And of course, I want it to be straight. So, Get the bone folder out. And just start pushing down. I'm going to start with that little groove there. I'll give it this groove. Let's see, that's straight. I mean, it's probably as straight as it's going to be, right? So while this is drying, I'm just going to continually push on it. And now you can, I've done covers where I just left the canvas edge raw. With your glue on the edge, it's fine. It's not going to fray or anything, especially a piece of canvas. You have to pay attention to the type of fabric that you're using and, you know, what works there. And sometimes it looks great to fray it. I've done that too. But in this case, I liked the idea of a sewn edge. I liked the idea of that just being just a little extra something going on the cover here. Okay, now what I'm going to do, two things. Let's see, excuse me for reaching. What I'm going to do is, this is a gum eraser, and it'll get your glue up, especially Fabri-Tac. It's great. And so I'm just going to look wherever I can see a little bit of shine, just lift that scallop up and just pull it aside here and just try to clean that up just a little bit. Sometimes it's easier to do with your fingers. Okay, that side's not too bad. That side's not too bad at all. Okay, this one's got a good little glob here that I can see. You can see it because it's shiny through there. I think that's actually pretty good though. So that one spot. Okay, now I like it. I like it. Here's kind of what it's going to look like when I'm done. You can see, you can tell here that I've come further. You know, there's more of the green on trim on the back than there is on the front, which is fine. And it's pretty straight. Pretty straight. You know, it's a handmade item, right? So don't worry about if it's not perfect. That's one of the hardest things I've had to deal with, is allowing the things that I work on to not be perfect. I want them to be, you know, I'm not going to be sloppy about it, but I'm also not going to fret over whether or not something is absolutely perfect. It's handmade. There's no such thing as perfection. Perfection doesn't exist. I'm just going to open it up, basically, and just do the exact same thing and pull this to the inside. But I don't want quite that much. And I also don't want this very, very end piece of trim because it's going to be in my way later. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this down. I still have plenty for it to roll through, but it won't be quite so much in my way. And this is still damp enough that I can easily do that, I think. Okay. And then I'm going to cut this about, I'm just going to trim just a tiny bit off. Not a lot. Then I can even that up too at the same time. I don't know if I evened it up. No, I didn't. Let's try that again. Even it up. I'll just keep going until I think it's sort of even. There we go. Good enough. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to take just a little bit of this off. Well, hopefully I didn't get too much there. As long as I've got enough to turn it over, to turn the edge, we'll be fine. It's almost dry, so it's kind of hard to... Doesn't want to pull up. Okay. Do the same thing. Trim off and try to cut it even. I think I did a better job there. All right. Now in this case, I'm going to get the glue on the on that trim piece too. I'm going to leave. I think I'm going to leave it loose on the front, but I want this part to be glued down very well. Get glue up in there. There we go. All the way to the edge, or almost anyway. Okay. So much easier to do this if you turn the book on its side. All right, now I may want to clamp that for a minute just because this is, yeah, let me grab some clamps. That canvas where it's sewn is a little, it's a little thick because it's double thickness and I got the trim under there. So I'm going to clamp that right there. Let that sit for a minute. And I'm going to clamp that right here on this side as well. And then I will work on pushing these pieces. Okay, I think I can take the clamps off now and clean up the inside right here. I'm going to use this gum eraser again. I guess a gum eraser is for gummy things. I don't think that's why it's called a gum eraser. I think it's called a gum eraser because it is a gum. It's made, that's the way it's made? I don't know. I have no idea. And most of this really is not going to show once the book is completely put together, but a little bit of it will. So I'm just going to clean it up there. Make sure I don't have any glue oozing. Okay. All right. I like it. Okay, this is almost dry. I'm going to pull them up, but just to give you an idea of what this will look like when it's finished. Let's see. Turn it so you can see. I'll have some pretty gorgeous, really. As a matter of fact, I think these are my last 4 metal book corners, and I've chosen these because they have that sort of scallop in there that I think complements the scallop here of my edge of the spine cover. And I'll use Sari Silk closure with a knob hitch. It is my absolute favorite type of closure, and I think it works nicely here. And if this is a custom order, and if she wants a book plate on the front, I would put it here. I don't know if she does or not, and so I will find out, and I'll find out before I finish, of course, the inside, because it would be clipped, all the way through if she wants a book plate. So these are just sitting on here. Obviously, I haven't put them on yet. I will. That's one of the very last things I do, So I don't usually finish off, any of the rest of the cover until the inside is done. And that allows me to get that book plate in over my inside sheets. So yeah, that's the way she's going to look. And I will set these pieces aside. And I just have that sitting on there. And keep them set aside for this journal. I'll find out if we're doing a book plate. And I'm going to clean up the inside here. And this is ready for me to start working on. I won't touch the cover now until I get ready to sew in the pages. So once the pages are sewn in, of course they have to be done first, and that's the next step that I'll be working on, are the pages and the ephemera and all of the fun pieces that go on the inside. So yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for joining me. This cover is now, both of these covers are now finished as far as I will get them at this stage. They will set aside now until I'm ready to start sewing in the journal. And yeah, and then we'll go from there. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate your support, and I'll be back soon with more on the Woodland series. Bye-bye.